You've heard so many people talk about these disruptors in our business, be it, the Uber cabs or be it Airbnb. And I think the reality is sinking in very clearly that many of these disruptors begin to impact our business as well. The innovations which you see happening, which are both digital and physical, they're both global and they're local. But I think there was a time when you said, what's possible? How does technology make things possible? I think today it's as much about how does technology make things profitable and not just possible, because the kind of investments which go into creating technology, it's kind of no more just a nice fad to have, and you begin to see companies do much, much more. So the question I'll ask rhetorically is, do we believe we are future-proof? Are we really thinking about, robotics and sensory technology and all of that, or is that still something which is kind of in the realm of science fiction? So I'm going to take a minute to show you a quick video, and then we'll talk about where is that really and what is that doing. So can we just put on the video? So that's not happening in the future. That's happening right now. It's kind of, I think that's where you begin to see that when you think technology, when you kind of, think of the possibilities, something like this is a real reality. And it's been an amazing experience designing it with the partners who actually built the robot. We often get asked the question, so is this going to replace people? And I think while that's not a challenge in developed, economies which are starved of talent, in a country like Australia where Starwood was developing a whole portfolio of lofts, this bottler will become a real part of the whole efficiency which the hotel would run with. I think they intend to run like a 100-room hotel with 10 people and the bottler. And so you're beginning to see this happen, but we clearly don't believe that stuff like this, technology like this, is replacing people. I mean, I've always been a proponent that use high tech to enable high touch. We've never seen ourselves in Starwood as a technology-driven company. We're a technology-enabled company. And I think that really lies at the core of organizations you see successful and organizations which had great brand names, and some of them don't even exist today. And one of the other things one keeps hearing about is that there have been so many fundamental changes in the space of design and technology in hotels. But really, think of it this way, the fundamental constituents of our business as hoteliers, it's not changed. The four pillars, as you would call them, your guests, your associates, your owners and shareholders, and your communities, those have remained the cornerstones of hoteliering for decades and ages. I think what's changed is our approach to these constituents and using technology-enabled services to deliver more on these guys. So, I mean, if you think of the guest, the old marketing philosophy of, one guy has a bad experience, he'll tell 10 people, is now, 10 million people. So clearly, if you're going to approach your guests and their feedback the way you did 10 years ago, and not recognize the value of what social media does, and I'll talk a little later about some of the things we're doing in that space as well. When you look at the talent landscape, if I may call it that, Clearly, our associates are younger and getting younger. The demographics have dramatically changed. Concepts like loyalty to a company or job security, these are alien terms to people who work today. I mean, when we joined the industry, clearly, Oberoi Hotels, getting a diploma at the school, so you're set for 30 years of working with them. At least that was my dad's idea when he kind of encouraged me to do this. Today, if I had to ask my kids, what's job security, what are you talking about? So for them, tech is cool. I mean, tech is their daily life. When you try and measure how many hours of the day they're wired, you get a sense that if you don't provide them that environment in your workspace, they're not going to work with you any longer. Today, people don't tell us that, we're here to join your company because we want to be loyal to you. It's because we want to have fun working, and we understand you provide a fun workspace for us. And again, so much of that fun comes with understanding how relevant technology is to them and how cool it is to them. When you look at our owners, our shareholders, again, they're getting smarter. They have as much knowledge and understanding of, what's happening around. And the big thing for us is that they always question, why are we spending so much on technology? And we all, big companies make big investments in technology, so you've got to be able to justify those to them and tell them how they actually deliver value to their hotels. And I guess with communities, technology has changed so much in the way in which we can do more, particularly with our environment, which is so much more relevant today than perhaps it was when we didn't have enough knowledge about it. Again, it's the philosophy of an organization which determines how they use technology from a customer engagement perspective. So one of the things we always espouse in Starwood is building loyalty beyond reason, which is, the power of loyalty programs globally. And SPG clearly is recognized as one of the leaders. And it's all about saying, how do we make that guy kind of, be loyal to you, doesn't matter what. And we have this amazing design studio in New York called Star Labs, which is populated and staffed with the youngest, hippest, coolest graduates coming out of whether it's MIT, whether it's some design school, where there's absolute cutting-edge young people. We don't expect them to spend more than a couple of years with us, but those are the guys who kind of work in this whole innovation lab which we've developed. And those are the guys who came out with concepts like, how do we develop a bottler and use him in our hotels? And that gives you a sense that companies who invest in this, who recognize the value of technology and what it can do for customer engagement, you'll begin to find more and more of them doing this. A lot of companies like to believe that, I don't need to be the leader, I'm happy to be the follower. And that's great too. One of the greatest hotel companies, which I have great admiration for, which is Marriott, not because they might be buying us, but just generally, is that, Bill Marriott always said that. He said, if somebody's doing something good, we'd be silly not to do it and try and do it better. Starwood, by contrast, is that we have to lead, we have to innovate, we have to be there first and before anybody else and get that early mover advantage, which is why we've taken a lot of risks in what we do in terms of technology and the way it impacts our brand. So one of the things we, again, thought about, and I'm going to show you another quick video on yet another kind of what may have started as a gimmick, and I'd like to believe that going forward, it will become a reality in terms of how people access their rooms in the hotel. So let's just take a look quickly at another video. see that one where the Indian guy beat the Chinese guy to opening the door? I think that was quite cool as well. So, I mean, imagine it. I mean, you're hearing so much about the mobile wallet, right? Everything is in your mobile today. You don't have to carry cash or a credit card anymore. So, as you see the convergence on that device, so why can't it be your keychain too? I mean, that's the sense, I guess, in terms of how customers are perceiving mobile technology and what it can do. And this is really picking up. So we right now launched it at all W and Aloft hotels. And I think in a couple of years it should be out rolling. And then it's giving your customers the choice. Again, the people will ask, so he bypasses the front desk. So where is his human interaction? I guess my answer to that is that he'll have human interaction when he wants, not when you think he wants it. If you think he must come into the hotel and be seen by someone, maybe he doesn't want to. Maybe he's in this kind of tearing hurry, late from a flight, has to go for a meeting, needs to just get into his room, change, and go. And so you're offering him that choice. And more you'll begin to see that your customers will tell you when they want interaction, and you'll soon figure out when they don't want interaction. And that's why I think some of these technologies are very real. They're not future technologies. They're kind of happening as we speak. And so, one of the big things, or kind of a recognition of your ability or adaptability with technology comes when a company like Apple invites you as the only hospitality company in the world to develop an app for the iWatch. And the last year, whenever the iWatch was launched, and Tim Cook was making the speech, so for about, I think it was 10 or 12 seconds, the image of the iWatch was with the SPG app. And we were trying to calculate how many millions and millions of dollars of free PR and publicity you get by, the CEO of Apple kind of talking about how you do that. And again, they had a few of our tech people kind of closeted in their campus for 15 days, working with them to kind of build out the first version of apps, which is going to go into the iWatch. The other thing I want to touch upon is, again, you've been hearing a lot about, the concept of big data. So just moving away for a minute from the customer guest perspective and looking at how technology is kind of working a bit at the back end as well. So today, I think it was in January, we had this conference right here in this room, which is our Oberoi Alumni Conclave. And so we had Bhaskar Pramanik, who was the Microsoft chairman in India, and we had Sanjay Rishi, the Amex head in India. And these guys were talking about what they do with big data and in terms of how they convert that to analytics. And once again, I think hotel companies who understand and begin to leverage those technologies, it comes back to saying, how can you be more personalized with your customers? So in Starwood, we've developed what we call StarGuest. StarGuest is a global guest history in the simplest way possible. It's used at many levels. It's used on property for all your customer management stuff and complaints and requests and all. But more importantly, every preference recorded of a guest in any hotel, any of the 1,300 hotels around the world of Starwood, is accessible to an associate in any other hotel of ours which he's going to stay in. So imagine the days from when we recorded history of the guests who came to our hotel to maybe try and spread that out. But today, big data allows you to kind of harness. And so imagine the possibilities of personalizing experience for guests using technology, which enables us. That's pretty rich. And again, many companies believed that, they recognize guests in different ways, and it's all about how you kind of have that personal touch, human intervention. I'm a big fan of that, don't get me wrong, but I really think that people have to understand that today, because the demographics of our customers have changed, their expectations, their needs, their experiences have completely changed. Today, each customer of yours it's unlikely that he doesn't have a Facebook account. I mean, that in itself gives you so much of information about him. Just trawling Google and looking at it, you can get as much information in the public domain on your customers. It's a question of how you begin to put that together, manage all that data to create those experiences which your guest actually expects from your hotel. That's what kind of big data does. Massive use of technology, massive investments required, but something which is clearly we will see happening more and more. And I guess the last thing I want to talk about, again, coming back to online and social media, is the whole concept of online reputation management, which I think most hotel companies now begin to practice. we started many years ago when we first began to see TripAdvisor getting the kind of power it has today. And we had inbuilt KPIs for hotels and general managers in terms of how much time minimum they needed to respond to feedback from TripAdvisor, and that became a part of a reputation management index, which went on to become a part of a GM's performance as well. So that's the kind of focus we put on something like that. I think about 4 years ago, we were again the first company to put out ratings and reviews opportunities to our guests on our own branded websites. I mean, up till now, you thought, if the guy's going to make a complaint about my hotel, he'll do it on TripAdvisor. But we encourage guys to say that, look, you want to review the hotel. Obviously, it's a big focus for us that we want to drive business from our branded websites. I mean, we like the OTAs, but we don't like the amount of commission they charge us. So we'd like to bring more business in through our own websites. Now, on the one hand, you're saying, drive to branded web, book through our own channels. But then you're saying, you know what? I'm not going to give you an option to review the hotel or rate the hotel. Once we began doing that, it's become almost the norm in the industry. So people who undermine what that can do to you in terms of your reputation, I think you'll really begin to see that these things start making a lot of difference. So, when it does come to talking about technology and how it gets used and how we can use it to enhance customer engagement, honestly, it's not a rocket science. I mean, lest you think that the whole concept of bringing in technology into a hotel, which is otherwise so traditional in terms of how we believe we have relationships, the more you adapt to it, the more you give that knowledge literally on the fingertips of your associates, you'll begin to find that your ability to personalize the experiences of your customer and guests is going to be better than it's ever been in the past when, you did. So thank you very much for your time.
I just wanted to ask, apart from the check-in experience, does Starwood plan to bring in other things such as F&B, laundry and other services, whatever are in the hotel, into the mobile platform?
Well, mobile platform, yeah, indeed. I mean, the way the Starguest is managed, which I talked about, the internal customer management system, that's all on the phone. That's all using SMS and WhatsApp technologies to kind of escalate and do stuff. More than mobile, yes, indeed, we're beginning to see a lot more technology usage, housekeeping. There's this amazing software called Rex, which again kind of brings about more and more efficiency in the way processes are followed. So yeah, I only try to give you glimpses of some customer-facing stuff we do in technology, but indeed, whether it's food and beverage, in our restaurants, in our kitchens, there is a lot of adaptive use of technology, more to be more efficient, and again, with the with the intention of providing a better experience to our guests.
Yes, the gentleman there, yes.
Yeah, I think it's a great opening to the day. And I have some experience with the OSHM, Dilip. And so I remember the days when they said our employee code is interact with the customer as much as you can. So we just surround them. And, at the end of it, you felt depressing. The guy probably doesn't need this much interaction. So leave them alone. I think it's great. And the film has been made wonderfully well. There's a wonderful shot of the child coming in and two girls appearing from nowhere. That's straight out of Stanley Kubrick. So these guys know how to make the films, and really gets you exciting, which is why the previous question was, can't we take this further into the system? But my real question is, and you're probably going to deal with it as the day progresses, how about solar technology? And I thought you'd spend some time telling us, are hotels being seen today as power guzzlers? Do you think we can get solar into it? Can you get solar food into the kitchen? Do you think there's the possibility that this comes up and you could make this a unique selling proposition or a positioning point for a hotel saying, hey, I'm all solar? And that thing which opens your door so that you don't have to fiddle with your, fumble with your keys while you take your girlfriend inside. That's all solar really in my hotel. You think we can do that, Dilip? Is it possible?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think you bring up a very good point. The solar piece, so Starwood has a vision which we launched in 2010, which is 30-20 by 2020, which means 30% on electricity and 20% on water. We would reduce our global consumption by 2020 to the part of a whole big new strategy we'd put out. And every year, and within the year, every quarter, every hotel around the world is audited for where it is in its targets. And we've crossed more than 50% of our target reductions at the end of 2015, so a year ahead of time. And so much of the efforts we are making in that area is, again, technology-based. A lot of it is still about making people believe and understand. The good thing is, when I talked about the younger demographics, when they say tech is cool, the really good thing is that they have a much stronger belief in the need for protecting the environment than we do, because guess what? They know we're going away. It's what we're leaving for them. When I talk to my kids about technology, it's amazing to kind of see that how much more understanding they have of the need to protect the environment. Previous generations like us and our parents and before, if we'd had half that consciousness, we wouldn't be where we are today. But the reality is that it's, again, technology, knowledge, information, which has allowed this generation to kind of, grow up understanding what it is. And when they come into the workforce, you don't have to sell them the idea that, you should be kind of environmentally sensitive. In fact, very often they tell you what you should be doing. And I think that's kind of a really good trend for the future, where more and more technology use will happen in kind of saving the environment.
Alternative power sources, power, Thank you, thank you very much.
Mandeep, please.
Hi, Dilip. A lot of technology innovations are seemingly happening in across brands, but I don't see a lot of it so far happening in India. So I just wanted to ask you, which is going to be your sort of first hotel coming up in the pipeline where we're going to see a lot of what you spoke about today?
So the Aloft Bangalore at Cessna Park, if any of you have been to that hotel, that already has keyless and works really well. That location in Bangalore is a very tech area, the ORR. So Cisco is like our neighbor, and kind of they have massive business with us, and they love this kind of stuff. So it's already there. It'll also be launched at the W Goa when we open in June of this year. In terms of the bottler, actually, the bottler is coming on a world tour. So he's going to Australia, he's going to KL, and then he's going to be coming to India as well. So we will kind of start bringing that in. But I think a more fundamental question, Mandy, is that the use of technology to do stuff like this, it comes at a cost. And I think that's one of the reasons why adapting some of those in terms of our Indian hotels has not yet happened. But it will happen. I mean, the reality is that I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the development of this stuff actually happened in India.
Which was where I was coming from, actually, Dilip, that I think in India we're pretty much tech savvy. A lot of tech innovations happen here. But somehow we seem to be a little shy, and I think it comes down to the whole ability for owners to understand the need to invest and go forward. And I think that's where it's been a little slow, and we've been a little shy of putting these together. That's what I wanted to get at. Is now something like keyless going to be more or less a standard feature of Aloft hotels or W hotels going forward?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think it's important when I talked about those constituents, where technology is really being adaptive in India now is from our associate training perspective. And I think that's already beginning to drive efficiencies in terms of our manning ratios. I mean, a typical five-star hotel in India not too long ago, if you ran at a 1:2 ratio, you said, okay, I'm cool. Today we see, luxury hotels beginning to operate at lower staffing ratios, and so much of that is because of the availability of technology to help them be more efficient in delivering those experiences. When you made the point about, what the Oberois taught us, indeed, I mean, till I think 3 or 4 years ago, we still train people in what should be the elevator talk. I mean, what do you say? And I don't know how many of you have experienced it, but when a receptionist asks me, how was your flight? Or how's your day? Or how's the weather? I mean, it's the most irritating question you can be asked. You're already thinking about what you got to do next, and here's somebody really trying to be nice, but having no clue as to what you really want to be doing. And when you can train your associates to emote with the guest, to know when he wants company or wants to talk to or not, imagine the efficiencies you can drive, because there's no need to escort the guy to the elevator in the room anymore. He doesn't want it. In fact, if you do that, he's not going to be too happy. He thinks you're being obtrusive. Whereas you begin to see that, I can give this guy information on a fingertip on his phone during his stay, so he probably is happy getting that and doesn't want to interact with me. you begin to see things, really getting more efficient. If you can drive room service through the bottler, I mean, imagine what you can do with your staffing levels. So it's both about efficiency, it's about personalization, and I think the use of technology, to Mandeep's point, we're not seeing it in many areas as yet, but I think we're not seeing it in the gimmicky areas. What we are seeing is its use in many of these functions, particularly in terms of empowering associates, allowing them to be more efficient, and therefore improving margins for our guests as well.
Okay, more questions? Bikramjit.
Use of technology in the luxury space where the human interaction is very important. When do you think that is going to happen?
So,
especially in India, where it's
so
all about.
I'll disagree with your first statement. I mean, human interaction and its importance is not specified by a luxury hotel or a economy hotel. I think it's understood by what your customers' expectations are. Today, the reality is that luxury travelers spend more time on reviewing TripAdvisor before their trip than somebody just making a business trip. So if you think that they're not savvy with technology, they clearly are. The experiences you provide them, again, they don't have to do with 5 people surrounding you. You still have, everything the guest needs. We train our butlers, for example, at the St. Regis more. How can you be unobtrusive? That's the key. It's not about what you have to do for your guests. It's about kind of being there yet not being there, understanding from, just eye reactions of the guest when he wants kind of to figure out where you are. So those are the things we do in terms of how we deliver luxury offerings as perhaps different from others. But in terms of usage of technology, I see no difference in what the expectations of a luxury customer or a budget customer really are.